As a journalist, I've been doing a lot of media training and a lot of training journalists on the job. Most recently, the feature syndicated service that I started called Sapan News, that some of you might be aware of, which is built upon these principles that I'm going to share with you today. And I do have a PowerPoint, which I don't know if they're plugging it in. And I've been given half an hour, so I'm going to try and speak for about 20 minutes and then leave some time for Q&A. So I think the first slide I've already covered because that was the first part about my background. So I'll go really, how do I use this thing? This is the thing? Can I just use this to move forward? Okay. So इसको मैं क्या करूँगी? अच्छा अंग्रेजी में बोलना है उर्दू में doesn't matter mix कर दें आगे okay perfect okay oh sorry okay so that was okay so obviously the PowerPoint has not translated well onto the screen here but maybe they'll fix that. So these are some of the initiatives I've been involved with. That includes the Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, started by my mentor Asma Jahangir, and I've been on founding teams of several media organizations. ये कैसे चलता है भाई? Okay. So what does it mean to think like a journalist? So I'm actually going to throw that out to you. I know that right now journalism is very heavily discredited, but when you think about journalism, what do you think it means to think like a journalist? If I could just have throw out a few words, what does it mean? Don't go into what people are doing in the name of journalism. What does it mean when you think of good journalism? What are the things that come to mind? Just something. Honesty, unbiasedness, thank you. Sorry? Thinking critically, yes. Questioning, excellent, yes. What else? Inquiring all sides, very good. Anyone else? Trying to figure out what the truth is, and I'll come to that. Those are excellent. So these are, and I'm sure each of you has opinions, but I understand that not everybody wants to throw them out there. So, okay, so ये थोड़ा सा slide को adjust कर सकते हैं because the 10th point is missing in that. Is it possible? Okay, this is because I did it on a Mac. This is a PC system. So anyway, so these are just some of the. I think the first thing that I would say, and this is something that comes from since I've been teaching a course called Global Journalism, which is kind of anthropological kind of journalism, and that involves something called positionality, which I'm assuming some of you may have heard of. Have people here aware of positionality? Yes, no? No, not really. So positionality means in anthropological terms, and of course it works with journalism as well, to be aware of your own position, okay? To really be aware of it, to be aware of your own position and privilege, if that exists, and to go forward with that awareness. That's the first thing. Then to be observational and not judgmental, okay? That's a really important point because with social media, we are all very quick to judge. This is correct, that is right, that is wrong. Why did you say this? Why didn't you say that? Why did you say it like this? Why didn't you say it like... It's like on and on. So to just be observational and not judgmental. And then to verify information before sharing it. To provide facts and not opinion, which also is part of that being observational and not judgmental. To provide context. It's not, journalism isn't just, how many journalism students are here or media people are here? I'm assuming you all know the 5 W's and the H, right? Right? Who, what, why, where, when, and how, right? But journalism isn't just listing those things out like a laundry list. कि आपने धोबी की list बना दी कि ये है, ये है, ये. It's providing context. It's knitting the things together, seeing the patterns. To hearing all sides, as somebody here said fairly, to going beyond binaries, to provide nuance and context. And somebody mentioned truth. So this is a slogan I came across when I did a small documentary called Milne Do, Let Them Meet about Kashmir. It's a 7-minute documentary. And I made it for the video journalists movement in Holland, which is now no longer there, but I loved their slogan, which is, there is more than one truth. So when we say find the truth, then to be aware of the fact that there is more than one truth, as in, everybody knows this, right? Okay, one person's hero will be another person's terrorist. This is the most obvious kind of quote-unquote truth in today's world, right? Then I actually listed out, this is an excellent book called The Elements of Journalism, which was published first in 2001. They have a revised version in 2021, but these are the 10 points. And the first one was the journalist's first obligation is to the truth. So you can't really see that first point because it's got cut off, but that's the first one. First obligation is to the truth. Next to which I wrote facts because of that insight that I have, right? And then your first loyalty is to the citizens and not to any corporation or management. And in front of that, that's my point, or to state narratives. That's not our job, right? We are not ambassadors or representatives of our countries. And then the essence is, and these are, I think we've already been through most of these, the verification and to hold accountability. And one of the important points is that journalists also have a responsibility and a right to work according to our own conscience, right? And then to exercise, and to keep, and to keep the information proportional. Like, don't sensationalize or as my daughter would say when she was little, don't over-exaggerate, right? Which is, you're exaggerating, you're already over-exaggerating. And then, of course, the last point which they added to this book was the rights and responsibilities of citizens. Because since the rise of social media, as we mentioned earlier, everybody is now virtually what I call a para-journalist. But so I'll just go back to this, why think like a journalist, the importance of this opinion. That anyone now with a smartphone is pretty much what I would call a para-journalist, right? They're like paramilitary, paralegal, or paramedic, but without the training or the oversight. So, aapke haath mein ek tool mil gaya hai aapko, and you just can carry on and do whatever you want. So para-journalism has its positive sides and its negative sides, and we all know what those might be. So, I've just listed them out, but I think all of you would probably know. The positive sides are that we, put things out there, bear witness, you're providing information that the mainstream media might ignore or not notice, give voice to the underrepresented. And the negative, of course, is there's so much negativity right now, right? There's lack of verification, there's misinformation, there's lack of context, there's personal attacks, and it fuels outrage, and it fuels what I call the cancel culture, which I think really needs to be thought about better. So that is para-journalism. And I want to bring another thought out here, which is that, human beings, what differentiates us from other creatures, okay? And that is the development of the frontal lobe, right? In all religions, you have this, namaz mein sajda hota hai. In Hinduism, they put a bindi. There's, it's there, like the importance of the frontal lobe, I think, has been there. People have recognized that for centuries, right? And then there is the reptilian part of your brain, which reacts when you are outraged, when you are triggered. And we can't process, the human brain cannot process bad news 24/7, okay? I think we all know that. With social media, it's coming at us from all sides, all the time, and it's just, too much to process, too much to bear, right? So then there's the feeling of being helpless, need to do something. And what can you do because social media is there? Then you're forwarding, you're sharing without context, without verification. And so what we are doing, what social media has done is that it has made us develop the reptilian part of our brains at the cost of the frontal lobe. In Lahore we used to say, I don't know why we said this, we said kidney istemal karo, I don't know why they said that. Anybody here from Lahore? Anyway, I don't know why they said that, but they said kidney istemal karo. But it's not the kidney, obviously. But to develop the frontal lobe, we need to pause, breathe, and reflect, to respond and not react. And what we are trying to do at SAPAN, South Asia Peace Action Network, this peace organization that some of you here have been involved with, also with me for the last 5 years, that we try to forge our own narrative and not just react to that of others, not just constantly be reacting. To recognize that the wheels of change turn slowly and there's no magic wand. So what social media has forced us to do, and what we have fallen along with that, is to seek instant gratification and demand immediate results, right? And the reptilian brain is, you fight, or you take flight, or you freeze. If you're using the frontal lobe, then you do the fourth option, which is not to fight, not to take flight, not to freeze, but to hold your ground and speak your truth, and to do the verification, and go forward in a responsible way. So this is a really interesting study I came across of how political extremists, right or left, exhibit similar brain processing. Okay? The brains of people with extreme political views, regardless of whether they identify as right or left, show more similarities than those of political centrists. Okay? There's a certainty of the righteousness of their cause, baki sab galat hai, and the refusal to hear other points of view, right? I mean, we all know that, right? So, is everyone with me so far? Is this making sense? Okay. So, why do we, I can't even see that because of the, so why do we need the core tenets of journalism? Because they can contribute to putting things in perspective, to uphold the basic values of empathy, dialogue, and civility that we really need to hold on to now, especially with social media putting us all over the place. To set in motion a virtuous rather than a vicious cycle, right? Because, we all know this. Aap Facebook pe hain, kisi group chat pe hain, kisi WhatsApp pe hain, somebody says something nasty, you reply, somebody replies, and it just goes on and on and on. And it's a downward, negative, vicious cycle, right? So to move away from that, to consciously promote a virtuous cycle. So doing that also helps to reclaim space and to build communities. And it models the behavior that you want to see to help to improve, the ecosystem that we are all part of right now. So, as said before, now online content creators have a responsibility. And we developed this code of ethics and responsibility pledge, which is inspired by the doctor's oath, the oath that medical practitioners take. So the idea is that everybody who uses anything online needs to also hold themselves accountable, to have some kind of accountability, to have a pledge, a code of ethics, right? We can't enforce this. I'm not saying it should be policed. I'm not saying this should be codified. I'm not saying this should be criminalized. I'm saying that this is about being the change, about what you would like to see in the world, to do that for yourself and for those around you, right? So that's online at sapannews.com/social. You can go to it later or whatever. And this has been it's a crowdsourced document that I worked on for several months with several people, students, lawyers, journalists, regular professionals, and we put together this thing. So I'm just going to run right through the 7 points that this has. And we've already talked about this, so it's kind of a bit repetitive, but I'll just say that the first point in this pledge is to say that I will pause and reflect before I post anything that has triggered me, right? And to own your triggers, which is a very important insight I got from a friend when I was having a hard time with a loved one, and I was like, "वो किस तरह क्यों कर रही हैं?" And And my friend said, you have to own your triggers. What is your role? How are you responding to that, right? So it becomes a back and forth, and so to step away, to pause and reflect, as I said before, to take responsibility for your own emotional reactions when faced with anything that evokes a strong response. And the second one is, we've talked about this already, distinguish fact from fiction, and I'm going to say this. This is not as easy as it sounds, because I do this exercise with my journalism students. It's called, it's distinguish fact from fiction. There's sentences, there's five things in there. And they have to take out the opinion part of it. And people have a really hard time doing that. Okay, nahi, magar this is the case, ye to aisa hi hai. And then when we talk about it, then they realize, okay, yes, this is fact and this is opinion, right? To remove opinion. Sorry. Just want to say one more thing about that. To provide information in a fair, accurate, and unbiased manner, to give benefit of doubt. So to remember to do that, like when somebody says something that has hurt you or you got angry with, even if it's online, to again pause and reflect and give that person the benefit of doubt. Maybe they're having a hard time, maybe they're having a tough day, whatever it is, like pick up the phone or go and meet the person. Don't just get into a back and forth online. Please, please, please don't do that. Share posts only after conducting due diligence, right? Do the verification, and on the social media pledge, we have provided some resources where you can go and check. And obviously, this is much more difficult than it sounds because we are so used to just posting, forwarding, sharing, right? And this involves pausing, it slows down the process, but maybe that's what we need to do right now, is to pause, to remember to pause, okay? To promptly and publicly correct any mistakes that we make. To not forward comments and voice notes. How many people do that? You know, किसी ने अपने बच्चों की तस्वीर कहीं share की, उसको आपने forward कर दिया. किसी ने voice note किया, which makes you mad, आपने किसी और दोस्त को forward कर दिया. Don't do that. That just adds to that negative spiral, okay? And it's not ethical. Also for AI, to fact-check AI-generated content, and to clearly label any post that is generated using any of these AI technologies. And this is a really important one, again, to not indulge in personal attacks, regardless of if you hate that politician or that officer or whatever. Do not indulge in personal attacks. Do not label, do not name call, do not engage in whataboutery. You know, well, heed this, what about this? Well, this, then what about that? The whataboutery, na kare. Always be civil and respectful online, and of course in person also. Goes without saying, I guess. But I think that was all I had about this. Yeah, that was it. So I think I've stuck to my time pretty darn well, which nobody else in Pakistan does. No, I'm kidding. People do. Some people do. So thank you very much. And I just want to end with this question, that after hearing me go through this, rush through this rather, like truncated sort of thing, when you think about it, which side of your brain will you feed? The reptilian or the frontal lobe? वो एक होता है ना कि आप which beast will you feed? We all have a bad one and a good one. In the Native Americans, they call it a good wolf and a bad wolf. Like, which beast will you feed? What will you practice? And in the end, it is all about practice. So, thank you very much. Sorry? Yes, please.
The floor is now open for a Q&A session.
Sorry, I hate standing behind podiums. Yes. Yes. Yeah, does anybody... Hello? Yeah, okay. And can I get off the stage? Sorry? No. इतनी मेरी lack of balance नहीं है.
Maybe a silly question. What do you mean by left brain and right brain?
Oh, I didn't say left brain and right brain. I said, and it's not a silly question. I tell my journalism students there's no such thing as a silly question, because if you ask a question, you need to know there's an answer. I didn't say left brain and right brain. I said frontal lobe and reptilian brain. So the frontal lobe is the part of your brain that you use for reasoning, but which distinguishes us from four-legged or other two-legged creatures, right? The reptilian part of the brain is the oldest, part of our brain. It is there from, time immemorial. And it is a survival thing, right? When you feel attacked, when you feel threatened, when you feel guilt, fear, anger, shame, any strong emotion, that's what kicks in. And that prevents you from using this, the kidney. Kidding. I'm just kidding. Not kidney, the frontal lobe. No, because it's the reason part of your brain. It prevents you from using that. So it's not left or right. What I said was that people on the left and the right of political spectrums exhibit the same characteristics. Thank you.
May I add one? Here.
Ji.
I'm Vice President of ZABIST, Vice President Academics of ZABIST. So just to add some, flavor to this right and left, I just saw one, social media पे एक चीज़ आई थी कि I will not take the name of that person. Everybody will understand. So it was said कि he has two brains, one right and one left. So left brain is not right, and right brain is not left. You understand? So
sorry,
may I repeat
okay.
this?
No, that's
Okay.
fine. But is there these are things that people say, right? So my policy for this kind of thing, having engaged with I think I'm from my generation, maybe one of the first people to engage in social media with the way that I have engaged with social media from my generation. Ab young log to of course सारे कर रहे होते हैं. Magar having engaged with social media, with public, with email groups, and all that, one policy that I have made for myself is to ignore any rubbish. That's their issue. बोलने दें, आपको क्या है? That's how I think, and it's up to, of course, each person कि आप किस तरह करना चाहते हैं. But when you see something foolish or that is, whatever.
नहीं मैडम, उसके बोलने से पूरी दुनिया हिल जाती है, इसीलिए उसके लिए
तो
कहा गया है.
आप उसका क्या कर सकते हैं? My point is that when somebody does that, and that's what I had said earlier in the thing, that when something happens that triggers you, that you like, ये क्या बकवास है, right? मगर then you also think कि आप उसके बारे में क्या कर सकते हैं, right? And if there is nothing you can do, then just. And I'll say this, that I do a exercise with my students. It's called active listening, which I got from a teacher trainer at Emerson in Boston. It's called active listening, and what happens in that is I have students in pairs, and they have 10 minutes. One person speaks for 5 minutes, the other person listens. The other person then speaks for 5 minutes, and the first person listens. And I give them a prompt or whatever. Magar, usme the point is that some people find it very easy to speak for 5 minutes. Some people don't. But the listener has the most difficult task, which is to do nothing. Jab koi aapko, the prompt that I give usually is ke, what challenges do you face and how do you cope? Because everybody faces challenges, right? It's not about, and to recognize that, right? Magar, we also cope, we also manage, right? So when I give that prompt, so I put that, there's a slide, I made a slideshow about that as well. And I said the listener has the hardest job to do nothing. And usme ye ke when the other person is talking to you, ke mera ye, this is my challenge, vagara, vagara, vagara. So the listener has to just listen and not say, oh, I know how that feels. Why have you tried this? Why don't you do this? Like, that's the training, the journalistic training, to just zip it, right? How many of you have watched The Crown? You, of course, have. Yeah. But so the crown, there's one thing that stuck out at me from that, which is when the Queen Mother tells young Queen Elizabeth, who has just been coronated, she says to her, "You, my dear, have the most difficult task of all. Do nothing." So to get used to doing nothing, and I mean, I don't want to bring religion into this, but Islam mein bhi hai, submission, like to accept what you can't change, to fight against what you need to fight against. तो जिसके खिलाफ आप लड़ नहीं सकते हैं, कुछ ही नहीं कर सकते, तो this is my view. Yeah.
One last thing.
Ji,
very quickly, if you could just tell me, should we encourage para-journalism or not?
So when I'm saying para-journalism, I'm saying everybody is a para-journalist. You already are. So what I'm saying is that you are like paramedics, paramilitary, paralegal, but you don't have the training or the oversight. So this social media code of ethics pledge is a kind of online training. And also, of course, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go and endorse that. Well, you'll see the comments on that, the people who've endorsed it, whatever. It's not, I'm not trying to, it's not a commercial thing. I'm not getting anything out of it. It's just a public service thing that we've done. Anybody can do that. And you can find other resources also to train yourself to think like a journalist, to develop. आप उसको journalism ना भी कहें, आप उसको just कहें an evolved human being, right? To use social media strategically, responsibly, and ethically, I think, is the responsibility. Because when you have, you've got this tool, this social media tool, right? You've got the smartphone, you've got the access, digital access, you've got so many whatever followers. So आपकी जिम्मेदारी भी है to not aggravate the situation, to not get into that, to not promote what I said in the slide about the negative spiral, the downward negative spiral. So, thank you. Thank you. Sorry? Oh, I do? Okay. All right. Go back.
Thank you, ma'am. We now request the President ZABIST, Madam Shanaz Wazir Ali, and Vice President Academics, Professor Dr. Muhammad Altaf Mukati, to kindly proceed to the stage and to present the token of appreciation to Ms. Beena Sarwar.
Okay.
As we continue with today's session,
We now turn our attention to a theme that connects history, identity, and cultural sustainability.
our next session is hosted by the Sindh Abhyas Academy.
The theme of today's discussion is Heritage of Sindh and Tourism.
We now invite our respected moderator and panelists to kindly take their places on stage.
We are honored to have this session moderated by Ms. Romana Hussain, author, artist, and educator.